Sunshine State.
We're going to rename it this year, that's for sure. Hey, thanks for joining us this evening on Weather Unfiltered, everyone. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. Of course, our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knablich, the artist formerly known as the Sunshine State.
Yeah, and well, you know, we got a lot of tropical moisture. At least we don't have a lot of tropical cyclones. An unexpected lull at the peak of the season, but we'll talk in a little while about how, as usual, it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, but who would have thought on September 8th, no tropical development expected would be the headline?
Like, this is the peak week, typically, historically, when we see the most activity. So we're facing a break.
I remember a week just like this one in the past, and then later in the show, I'm going to tell you how the rest of that season turned out.
I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be what I want to hear. But anyway, stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let's take you to that state formerly known as the Sunshine.
Finally, Alex.
Love to see that. But before we get there, let's take you to a very soggy virtual view of Jacksonville, Florida. Of course, showers and thunderstorms will bring some of those downpour potentials that could lead to standing water. You know, the little ponding here near the St. Johns River. All right, coastal flood advisories, they are also up and down the coast. So we get down to Flagler Beach, up into sections of southeast Georgia. So these coastal areas do have that coastal flood threat as well. You can see the onshore wind here, and it's gusty. Right now, winds around 24 miles an hour in St. Augustine, gusting to 36 miles an hour. And we've also seen some of those stronger gusts around Jacksonville, Fernandina Beach, and also St. Simon's Island. Not quite as strong as at St. Augustine, more in that 20 to 25 mile per hour range, but still gusty winds out there. And again, that onshore push is leading to that coastal flood danger. Beaufort, North Carolina, you're gusting to near 30 miles an hour. And meanwhile, Myrtle Beach, not much of a gust right now. When we look at Mayport, Florida, and the tide cycle, we've got high tide of concern. Of course, 10:25 tomorrow morning, still dealing with that onshore flow. So that in combination with the high tide could lead to those coastal flood issues. And that's why we've got those warnings posted. Wind gust forecast into tomorrow morning here at 10 o'clock. We've got plenty of gusts in that 20 to 30 mile per hour range from Atlantic City to Virginia Beach, all the way down to Savannah and Jacksonville, Florida. So up and down the East Coast, those winds are going to be kicking to start the day. And of course, we watch the coastal areas. Now, wind gusts into parts of the Northeast, or really mid-Atlantic and then the Northeast. They'll start to pick up in the mid-Atlantic tomorrow morning. And you can see even towards the end of the week, staying a bit breezy. Friday afternoon, expect those breezes 15 to 20 miles an hour in Martha's Vineyard and East Hampton, also down to Wildwood and Ocean City. Coastal gauges in flood. This is the forecast here moving forward, expecting minor to moderate across sections of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, Mike.
All right, Alex, thank you very much for that. Severe storms
concerns also present, and severe weather. You know, we've got flash flood warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings across sections of Kansas currently. So Wichita, you just had some big-time thunderstorms rolling through to the south and west. We've got a little bit more in the way of severe activity up 135, frequent lightning, very heavy rain there. And in the wake of that heavy rain, we've got a few flash flood warnings that linger. So the available energy has been high and the temperatures have been up. Notice, though, as that rain shield moves through, the temperatures drop significantly. So southerly flow today has continued to bump up the warmth and, of course, the moisture. And so these thunderstorms have had that available energy to work with. 5 to 10 degrees below average tomorrow across the east. Meanwhile, notice some sections of the plains will have those above average temps, 5, 10, 15 degrees above the mark. Now, by Thursday, we rebound again. Now we're 5 to 15 degrees above average for a lot of Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, and also the Dakotas. So noticing that warmth building back in, but followed by the chill. You can see a little more blue on the map, kind of chasing the red. Saturday, warm day for Minneapolis, for Des Moines, for Kansas City, even approaching places like Chicago. I think greater departures over towards like a Paducah area. But here for fall football games, we may be, dealing with a little higher warmth than we would hope. Columbia, Missouri, your one location. Louisiana, Ragin' Cajuns, now they're used to the heat and humidity, so they won't have an issue. But as they take on Mizzou, we've got temps in the low 90s, likely with a mix of sun and clouds. So again, a little bit maybe more humidity and heat than you'd prefer for college football. Jonesboro, Arkansas, Iowa State taking on the Red Wolves from Arkansas State. This one's also a hot one. We expect temperatures into the mid 90s, plenty of sunshine. So especially if your seats are in the sun, Hydrate, 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 hydrate. That is the key. Little Rock average high this time of year is 87. We're going above the mark Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And notice it's like a stepping stone. Saturday is the warmest day of the bunch. So well above average by the start of the weekend. In Nashville, where the average high is 87, we're above the mark on Wednesday. We continue to climb into the start of the weekend. Saturday highs, Mike, around 93.
All right, thank you, Alex. We're coming up here on Weather Unfiltered. A look at
Welcome back into Weather Unfiltered. Hurricane Kiko in the eastern Pacific has been really the headliner tropically here within the last few days. And we look back at Kiko's major kick at Category 3 or higher. We were talking about this a lot into last week. 90 plus hours this storm spent at or above a Category 3, so at major hurricane status. And of course, we've continued to watch Hawaii farther down the line. Now, as continued to be the expectation, storm will be weakening, will not make landfall there, but will pass well to the north of the Hawaiian Islands. It also weakened significantly. Category 1 hurricane currently 85-mile-per-hour winds, pressure 990 millibars. So as it worked through some of those colder waters, we've seen the wind speeds go down. And obviously, we are not looking at the same storm we saw last week. Remember when we were looking at the perfect eye? This thing looked amazing on satellite. Now it's going to be moving to the north, but it's not without any issues for the Hawaiian Islands. As it's moved through those cooler ocean waters, yes, we have seen the weakening, but there's going to be enough going on that we see, especially on the east-facing beaches, some of those larger swells, so big waves and dangerous rip currents. So keep that in mind if you're at the Hawaiian Islands. Dip in the jet stream is what's going to be picking up the system today, and again, guiding this to the north. Upper level winds will also shear it apart. So we're not going to be looking at, a major Hurricane Kiko as it moves off to the north. The worst impacts will track well to the north of Hawaii. But again, big waves, rough surf, dangerous rip currents. You can see some showers in the forecast, but we will see other effects that Dr. Knapp's going to talk about courtesy of the storm.
Yeah, so let's break this down, Dr. Knapp, and how this pattern you've seen.
Well, they don't have that in St. Louis, but what they do have is a little bit of cool, a little bit of warm. So temperature-wise, they've got everything. But dogs on unicycles, we can get on board with that. We've got a little cool, we've got a little hot for you. Average high this time of year is in the mid-80s there in St. Louis. So tomorrow, a little bit below the mark, but then we are way back above the mark. We got upper 80s on tap for the second half of the week. By Friday, we're in the low 90s, mid-90s on Saturday. So again, across the Plain States, those Saturday collegiate football games, gonna be a little toasty. My advice is sell the ticket. I just don't like being hot, so sitting in aluminum stands or metal stands, I feel like it's aluminum, but it's like, it makes me feel like I'm on tin foil in the oven. So I totally get it. If you'd rather watch it at home, I feel like it's much more comfortable that way. Dips, I recognize I'm a fair weather fan. Dips in the jet stream over the Great Lakes and Northeast. Notice we don't get real significant dips. So that's going to keep cooler highs farther up to the north. Meanwhile, places like St. Louis do get rebounds back into the 80s, 70s for Indianapolis. Notice that jet stream now gets a little bit of a lump in it on the positive side. So the dip in the jet stream to the west gives way to a ridge into the central U.S. That's helping to build in high pressure, and that's helping those temperatures just continue to climb up and up. So yeah, by Friday, a lot of 80s and 90s from Chicago to Memphis to North Platte, even Rapid City and Minneapolis. So even our spots well to the north where we've already had, quite a bit of chill, we got some warmer air coming back in. So this is what we were talking about. If you were watching me and Chris was like, it always fools you, right? We can't buy in on fall just yet. I think Dr. Knapp said the same thing last week, and here we are. They were right. Midwest, average last 90-degree day for Minneapolis would be October 10th, the 6th in Chicago, Indianapolis, Kansas City, portions of October, especially late October for those. Those are the latest. Now on average, about now.
Here at Once Upon a